يا أيها الإنسان ما غرك بربك الكريم الذي خلقك فسواك فعدلك في أي صورة ما شاء ركبك كلا بل تكذبون بالدين وإن عليكم لحافظين كراما كاتبين يعلمون ما تفعلون إن الأبرار لفي نعيم وإن الفجار لفي جحيم يصلونها يوم الدين وما هم عنها بغائبين وما أدراك ما يوم الدين ثم ما أدراك ما يوم الدين يوم لا تملك نفس لنفس شيئا والأمر يومئذ لله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ويل للمطففين الذين إذا اكتالوا على الناس يستوفون وإذا كالوهم أو وزنوهم يخسرون أولئك أنهم مبعوثون ليوم عظيم أدراك ما سجين مكذبين الأولين كلا بل ران على قلوبهم ما كانوا يكسبون كلا إنهم عن ربهم يومئذ لمحجوبون ثم إن الجحيم ثم يقال هذا الذي كنتم به تكذبون كلا إن كتاب الأبرار لفي عليين وما أدراك ما عليون كتاب مرقوم يشهده المقربون إن الأبرار لفي نعيم على الأرائك ينظرون تعرف في وجوههم نضرة النعيم يسقون من رحيق مختوم ختامه مسك وفي ذلك فليتنافس المتنافسون ومزاجه من تسنيم
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله
الذي
وأنتم فجزاك الله خيرا شيخ.
Naam, you are all welcome. Inshallah, in the next 5 minutes we will start the program. I just want to ensure that everything is clear. Can you all hear me, sir?
Yes, I'm hearing you well from Jordan. Alhamdulillah.
جزاكم الله خيرا. أهلا بكم. جزاكم الله خيرا.
شكرا جزيلا.
جزاكم الله خير.
Inshallah.
In the next 5 minutes we're going to start, inshallah.
Inshallah, we are waiting for you, sir. May Almighty Allah make it easy for us.
Amen.
Accept it as an act of ibadah for us.
Amen. Allah. Amen. Thank you.
I'm hearing you clearly from Jordan.
Jazakumullah khairan. How was Jordan?
Amen. We also hearing you clearly from Malaysia here.
Alhamdulillah, mashallah, mashallah, alhamdulillah. Taqabbalallah.
Amen. You're welcome. Yes.
كتاب مرقوم ويل يومئذ للمكذبين الذين يكذبون بيوم الدين وما يكذب به إلا كل معتد أثيم إذا تتلى عليه آياتنا قال أساطير الأولين كلا بل ران على قلوبهم ما كانوا يكسبون كلا إنهم عن ربهم يومئذ لمحجوبون ثم إنهم لصالو الجحيم ثم يقال هذا الذي كنتم به تكذبون كلا إن كتاب الأبرار لفي عليين وما أدراك ما عليون كتاب مرقوم يشهده المقربون إن الأبرار لفي نعيم على الأرائك ينظرون تعرف في وجوههم نضرة النعيم يسقون من رحيق مختوم ختامه مسك وفي ذلك فليتنافس المتنافسون ومزاجه من تسنيم عينا يشرب بها المقربون إن الذين أجرموا كانوا من الذين آمنوا يضحكون وإذا مروا بهم يتغامزون وإذا انقلبوا إلى أهلهم انقلبوا فكهين
Assalamu alaikum.
وإذا
Wa alaikum salam.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Jazakumullah khairan.
Wa iyyakum.
And the audio is very clear?
Yes, very clear. Very clear.
Okay, just to cover everything is said.
Okay, it's all right. Yeah.
I think we have the Prof in our midst. Yeah, we have the Prof in our midst already.
Okay. Thank you.
So, I think we can start.
Again,
Assalamu alaikum, sir. Prof, can you hear us, sir?
So he will join you very soon, inshallah.
Oh, okay. Just to cover everything is okay.
Yeah.
So while we are waiting for the Prof, inshallah, we would like to start the program, inshallah, with some preambles. And inshallah, we hope the Prof is going to join us very soon. He has joined already, and I think he went out for something. Yeah, we all welcome you to the last part of the program, named SUKUK, an instrument of the Islamic capital market. Jazakumullah khairan for your time. We all know that last week we started the discussion and we requested for the Prof to give us 1 week more to answer the questions, because we had a lot of questions that are coming. So today, inshallah, is meant for questions and answers. Our plan, like it was sent in the announcement, we expected that whoever has questions must have submitted his questions. And in fact, we had forwarded the questions to the Prof. So today, we'll answer the questions that were forwarded to the Prof. And if Allah permits, and we have enough time, maybe we can also answer questions that came thereafter. So, inshallah, like we all know, today's program will be question and answer. Professor AbdulRazaq Alaro is a Sharia expert, a barrister, and a solicitor of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, an internationally certified arbitrator. His area of specialization is Islamic financial transactions, with emphasis on banking, insurance, and capital markets, and has published in reputable peer-reviewed journals across the world. Currently, is a professor and head of Department of Islamic Law, Faculty of Law, University of Ilorin, Nigeria, where he has been teaching for over a decade Islamic law of contract, Islamic property law, Islamic company law, and principle of Islamic jurisprudence, usul of fiqh. In addition, Professor Alaro is a member of Central Bank of Nigeria's Financial Regulation Advisory Council of Experts, a member of the Advisory Council to the Nigerian National Insurance Commission on Islamic Insurance, and has been invited to speak in many areas, in many high impact fora, including International Sharia Scholars Forum in 2014 and 2018, International Islamic Liquidity Management Roundtable on SUKUK in 2016, African International Conference on Islamic Finance in 2017-2019. So inshallah, without wasting our time, I will use this medium to invite Professor Alaro to start discussion, inshallah. But before I do that, let me quickly use this opportunity to tell us that there will be a poll close to the end of the program. Please, let's try to attend to the poll questions so that we can assess the program very well. Jazakumullah khairan. So inshallah, I will invite Dr. Alaro now, inshallah, to come to the table, virtual table. Jazakumullah khairan.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
Alhamdulillah. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. We start in the name of Almighty Allah, the most beneficent and the most merciful. We ask him to send more peace and blessings on the last of all of his messengers and his prophets, Nabiyuna Muhammadun. May peace and blessings of Almighty Allah continue to be on him. And may the same peace and blessings be extended to cover all members of his household, as well as all of his companions, and whoever follows their footsteps until the day of resurrection. Ameen. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, the organizers, members of the audience, it is my pleasure to also join you in today's session, which has been dedicated for your questions that were raised. You began to raise those questions since the last time we met, that was last week, and it continued offline. I was made to understand. So inshallah ta'ala, we ask him subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless this 1 hour that we are going to spend with one another today, because I realize we have so many questions. But if Allah blesses the time, I think we will be able to cover, if not all, a majority of those questions. And may Almighty Allah make whatever we say here or we listen to here today to be beneficial to us and to the entire Muslim Ummah. So my host, I think you will have to be reading the questions one after the other, or what is the arrangement?
No, inshallah. We'll be reading the questions, inshallah, and we hope everybody can follow.
Okay, so let's start.
Okay, Jazakumullah khairan. Ahlan bikum, sir. Now, the first question goes.
Thank you.
That it is binding on the two parties to sell or buy at the end of the transaction. That goes against the principle of this type of business transaction. We all know that the FGN SUKUK is for roads, infrastructure. Therefore, it is not even possible for you not to sell back to the FGN.
Okay. This is a very interesting question. Alhamdulillah, once again. You see, when we are talking of binding or non-binding promises, I think that is the foundation for this question. We've all listened to the moderator that this question is raising concern and is a genuine concern. That we have a promise from the federal government of Nigeria to buy the roads at the maturity of the tenure. Equally, we have another promise from the SUKUK holders to sell those roads to federal government of Nigeria at the end of the 7-year tenure. So he is asking if the two promises are to become binding, wouldn't that amount to a negation of certain Sharia authorities, which the question did not mention, but it's very clear to me, and I will answer and I will address the question this way. Yes, first and foremost, let me begin by laying some foundations that will assist us in assimilating the answer to this question. It is not only SUKUK. Generally speaking, products of Islamic financial practices or Islamic financial institutions are usually embedded with promises. Do you know why? We are talking of financial institutions. We are talking of banks. We are talking of insurance companies. All those who are practicing Islamic finance, they are financial institutions. They are not commercial institutions per se. In fact, in most jurisdictions, the law of a country will prohibit a bank from transacting directly with customers. That is the position of the law in most of the countries of the world, that you cannot be a bank. And again, we still see you opening shops or opening warehouses where you can go and sell to customers directly. The justification for this from the legal perspective is very simple, is that majority of traders who lodge their money with the bank are also in the same market. So if the bank should also descend into coming as a trader to the same market, it will have an upper hand that will not be justifiable. There is a competition between the bank now and those depositors who are bringing the money to it. So it will know when they are moving their money, they want to buy something, maybe the bank will signify interest first and have a competitive hedge over them. This is not allowed and this is not accepted. So this is the foundation, this is the position in most jurisdictions. Happily, when Islamic finance came on board, scholars were very frank. Muslim jurists were very, very frank by saying no. An Islamic bank must trade. There's no way you can be an Islamic bank, an Islamic financial institution without engaging in trading activities. The reason being that what I told you last week, this is the clear difference between what is halal and what is haram. Trading in money is different from trading with money. So an Islamic bank cannot just sit down and advance money, expect you at the end of the day to pay the capital plus a percentage of interest. It is not allowed. What an Islamic bank will do is to buy a product, buy an asset and sell, and so on and so forth. Buying, selling, leasing, the rest of them. So if that is the case, then an Islamic bank will need something to secure its interest. I think I'm being followed in this line of argument. Because we need to understand the foundation, the basis. The foundation is that ordinarily a bank is not expected to be trading, but the law that accommodated Islamic finance in every country will have to accommodate that too, that this is a peculiar situation. They call them specialized banks that must trade for them to survive. They must trade. Now, if that is the case, now come to think of it, if an Islamic bank should buy vehicles now, hoping to sell to the interested customers, it bought hundreds, it bought 50 today. Tomorrow, nobody came to buy. In a week's time, nobody come to buy. You are not expected an Islamic bank to go to the normal market to be advertising, to have warehouses where people will come and look at the car and say whether I like or not. It will become something else. It's no more a bank. And even the law allowing it to operate in every jurisdiction will never be so lenient to that level to become 100% trader. If you want to trade, leave banking sector and go to the market and be like any other trader. What the law normally allows them is to give them a time frame that will be very short, that, okay, you can buy today, you sell tomorrow, you buy today, you sell next week. That can be accommodated in the banking environment, in financial, not only banking, in financial environment. Now, that is why an Islamic and financial institution must secure its interest. It must be double sure that if I buy today, I will find a buyer tomorrow. If I buy today, by a week, by the end of 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maximum of 4 weeks, I will find a buyer to buy the product from me. Otherwise, where will I put them? I will put them in the premises of the bank. People will come to my bank and ask me whether I'm a motor dealer or a banker. So this is the situation. This is the situation not only in Nigeria and not only in SUKUK. I'm answering generally. An Islamic bank must do that to have a promise. Now, people will say, why shouldn't it be a non-binding promise? No bank, no Islamic financial institution can survive, can continue in that way. You come to me today and promise me that, okay, Mr. So bank, if you buy a vehicle, if you buy a road, if you buy a house, I promise to buy it from you while you will charge your own profit margin, known as markup. For example, that's just an example. Then I went straight into the market and bought the car and bought the house. All of a sudden, you resurface tomorrow and say, so sorry, Mr. Bank, I don't need the motor, I don't need the vehicle again. I don't need the house again. If 2, 3 customers should do that one in one single day, the bank will collapse the next day. That is the truth. So it has to secure its interest. If we want Islamic financial institution to continue to operate, it cannot just be buying, be selling, and waiting for who will come and negotiate. That is why it is allowed for them to have a promise that will be binding at the same time. Because these issues have been debated upon by scholars all over the world. They've looked at all parameters and see that, no, this is what Sharia could allow, and that is what is just taking place. A binding promise must be in SUKUK. A binding promise must be in any other financial product of either a bank or any other financial institution. I think I'm clear enough up to this level.
No, sir.
Okay, now let's now go to the question. Now, if we have understood this, that there must be a binding promise. Now, the question here is very, very important. It's saying now that when we have a promise from federal government of Nigeria to buy, and we have another promise from the SUKUK holders to sell, the two promises should not be binding. Yes, we are also saying yes. The two promises should not be binding at the same time. And if you look at the document, if you look at the prospectus of the federal government of Nigeria SUKUK, it is stated clearly that way, that this promise is only binding on one party. And this is in line with the resolution of the International Islamic Fiqh Academy, even equally the Sharia Council of AOFI, Accounting and Auditing Organization of Islamic. And I don't even know of any single authority in the world that deviates from this one, that does not agree with this point, that if a promise is binding on just one party, it is allowed in Sharia. It is only when they become what we call bilateral promise. And the reason for not allowing that in Sharia is a simple fact. When you have a bilateral promise that binds both parties to a contract, it's as good as having a contract sealed. There's no difference between a promise that is binding on the two parties and the real contract itself. So it will create a lot of Sharia complications. And that is why they have resorted to allowing what is acceptable in Sharia, which is what we call wa'adu. It's a unilateral binding promise. FGN will promise to sell, which is taken to be, FGN will promise to buy, which is taken to be binding on each. So that is it. The questioner is saying, because it is road, therefore it is not even possible for you not to sell. No, we cannot say it is not possible for you not to sell, but it is in your best interest to sell. It is in your best interest to sell. If you refuse to sell roads, what will you use them for? So it is in the best interest of SUKUK holders. And mind you, we are talking of SUKUK. If you understand the structure, the way the SUKUK works, SUKUK is not meant to operate in perpetuity. We have to understand this, a very important point. SUKUK means temporary ownership. From day one, when a SUKUK holder is buying, he must have had this in mind. SUKUK is not like shares of a company that you buy, and if you like, you keep till eternity, if it is possible. SUKUK is not that way. SUKUK, simply put, means you have agreed to enter into a temporary partnership that will come to an end at maturity, 7 years, 10 years, or so on and so forth. So I wouldn't agree with this question that because it is road, it's not even possible. No, it's possible, but it's not in your interest. And it is not in the SUKUK holder's interest not to sell. And mind you, they have already known what they are entering into. It's a SUKUK, not shares. SUKUK, not shares. So we've taken a long time in answering this question. I'm afraid we may not be able to go to address all questions this way, but I have to do that to lay a very solid foundation for our understanding of this.
No. Jazakumullah khairan. I think the second question is like a follow-up to the first question, and I think it will not take time because just like a follow-up. Now, secondly, transaction is completed in one by signing the contract of buying and the promise to sell all at once. Is it possible for all subscribers to buy first, then after confirmation, the second part of transaction can be completed a few weeks later?
A good question, but I think we have answered this in last week. No. I spoke very extensively, I think, on what we call bay'ataini bi bay'a, safaqataini bi safaqa. This is the genesis of this question, because somebody understands that Sharia hadith says do not combine two contracts in one. Do not combine two sales in one. And that is why he's suggesting that let them do one this week and next week let them do another one. My brothers and sisters in Islam, this is a science on its own. Islamic finance has become a science on its own. It is not sufficient for you to read something and understand it literally. I've told you, scholars for centuries, they have debated, they have discussed what is the intent, what is the import, what is the true meaning of bay'ataini fi bay'a, safaqataini fi safaqa. I think we wouldn't like to waste our time on this. Whoever raises this question may go back to the recorded session of last week and get our answer on that. Bay'ataini fi bay'a has a different connotation from what you are taking it to be. And this is what has been settled for centuries. What I would like to add here is that there is another misconception I can feel that here. It's also coming from misunderstanding of the rules, the laws governing financial transactions in Islam. Let me tell you clearly, It is difficult to have a financial product that will be as simple as what we call just a single or plain vanilla product, like he is trying to suggest here, as if we don't even accommodate at all combination of contract. It is not like that. It is not like that. Combination of contract is not haram, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam. It is not in peculiar cases that the Prophet ﷺ specifically mentioned that you cannot combine so-so with so-so-so. I've mentioned to you a hadith of Jabir bin Abdullah last week, where he dealt with the Prophet, he transacted with the Prophet ﷺ, and we can see that there were two contracts in their dealing. He sold to the Prophet ﷺ, and at the same time, make a condition that I will ride the same camel that I've sold to you until we get to Medina. So that could mean an ijara, it could mean a lease. If the Prophet has decided to take rent from him, he has every right to do that as the owner. So it is not true. Please, let us take that one clearly, and it will help us in clearing some of the doubt or misconceptions surrounding sukuk and other Islamic financial products. It is not true that the Prophet ﷺ said, don't combine contract. No hadith says that. Bay'atayn fi bay'a, safaqatayn fi safaqa has their own meaning, has its own meanings, which we have explained last week. According to Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala, when he came to discuss this issue of combining contract, he said, ordinarily, al-aslu fil mu'amalati al-ibaha. The original rule when it comes to financial transactions is that of permissibility. Everything is permissible until when they run into what is haram, then we will stop them. Originally, if they want to combine 2, 3, 4, 5 contracts, we will say, you are welcome. But when we now see that the combination has led to something that is haram, we say no. And that is the point. Scholars have laid it down clearly today. They call it parameters for the acceptability of combination of contract. There are parameters. You have to follow those parameters. If you go against them, no scholar will declare your product as being halal. It will be declared as being haram. Like al-aina, for example, selling and buyback. This is a combination of two contracts, whose intention is to circumvent the rule of riba. They buy, they sell instantly with different prices. The sole aim is to circumvent the rule of riba. Then here we will stop them. We will say, no, this combination has contradicted. This combination has contravened a rule of Sharia, and it is not acceptable. But it is not true. I'm saying it again clearly. It is not true that the Prophet said don't combine contract altogether. No. And interestingly, like I told you, if you look at financial contract, not today, even from the whole time, from centuries ago, most of the financial contracts, they have that characteristics of being combined, because that is what will give an effect that will be attractive to most customers, especially today in the age competition. Banks, financial institutions, financial products must be, actually in most cases, must be combined, and it is not haram to combine contract. But there are rules, yes, to be followed. In another hadith, I've mentioned bay al-ina as one of the parameters. If the combination itself is to circumvent the rule of riba, to avoid the prohibition of riba in an indirect way, then we will discover that and say, stop there, it's not allowed. Scholars would say, they will discover and stop it. Another instance is when the combination itself runs foul of a clear-cut injunction of the Prophet ﷺ or of the Quran in the first instance. For example, in the hadith narrated by Amr ibn Shu'aib and Abihi and Jaddihi radiyallahu anhu, he said the Prophet ﷺ naha an bay'in wa salafin, na'a an bay'in wa salafin. The Prophet prohibited the combination of a sale contract with a loan contract, because there is no way you will combine loan with sale unless you will derive an undue advantage. It's like you are lending for interest in an indirect way. So these are the rules that we must follow. But to say that generally we don't combine contract, or let them do one this week, then they wait until, there is no need for that. Absolutely, there's no need for that. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm afraid we don't have enough time to go find these questions. So inshallah, we'll try. The third question is, the special purpose vehicle is not well understood or clear. The Ministry of Works or Finance is still the person who receives the money, and they're still government.
That question, please, can you come again?
Yeah. Special purpose vehicle is not well understood or clear. The Ministry of Works or Finance is still the person who receives the money, and they are still government.
This is also interesting, but like I said, please, and please. Al-Quran al-Karim says, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. It's only for you to ask those who know in an area that you know not. You cannot know everything. Even experts in Islamic finance may not know certain areas of Sharia, but this is their own field and we must refer to them in clarifying issues. This is another misconception about how the SUKUK works. Not only FGN SUKUK all over the world. Now, even this one has a link with the law of the country, the law of any country. It's talking about an SPV, and that it's the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing that is collecting money, that is paying money, and the rest of them. What we need to understand here, even before we delve into the Sharia issue, which is our major concern here, but for us to understand it, we have to go back a little bit in understanding the legal concepts surrounding this. What is the legal concept surrounding this? The fact is what we call artificial personalities. We have natural human beings. We have unnatural human beings, if I can call them that way, which we call artificial personalities, which Sharia will recognize. Sharia recognizes artificial personalities. Only what Sharia will not allow them to use artificial personality to achieve is when they go to the point of saying limited liability. That is a no-go area. But for Sharia, Sharia has no problem in recognizing a non-human being as a person under the law. If you have a company now, your company may be distinct from you as the promoter or as the founder of the company with different liability. But when it comes to liabilities, that is where Sharia will come in to say, no, you cannot limit your liability when you don't limit your profit. That's another area we don't want to go to, because it will take a lot of time. But what I'm saying is that the concept of legal personalities is the basis of this one. When you look at FGN, Federal Government of Nigeria, I can tell you, maybe because I'm also a lawyer, I can tell you that there is a difference between Federal Government of Nigeria and Nigeria. Are you getting me? Nigeria, if you write Nigeria now, there is a difference between Nigeria as a state, as a sovereign state, and Federal Government of Nigeria. Those are two persons, different persons. When you come down, you can also see there is a difference between Federal Government of Nigeria and the President of Nigeria or the presidency as a whole. They are not the same. This is another person and this is another person. And how do we know a person is the capability for duties and rights. That is the true definition of a person, either in Sharia or even in man-made laws. Anybody that is capable, any being that is capable of duties and rights is a person. So the good example of that, because some people will say, oh, Prof. Alaro is taking us to law. No, I'm not taking you outside Sharia. When you look at the concept of waqf and waqf endowment in Islamic law, is a clear picture of Sharia's accommodation of artificial human being, independent personality. When you have an endowment of a house now, you can separate it from you as a person. That, okay, no, I have made this building a work for an endowment. It will earn on its own. it will spend on its own, and I will spend on my own, and I will face my businesses, other businesses on their own. So that is the genesis of this question. Now, if we have understood this, they are different. It's not true that an SPV in SUKUK, let me come precisely to an FGN SUKUK, because I was involved in it. FGN SUKUK has many different personalities involved in this contract. For example, if it comes to the SPV that you've just mentioned, the SPV is housed in Debt Management Office. Debt Management Office is an office under the presidency, but it is not the same thing as Federal Ministry of Housing. It is in part of the contract that must be signed in SUKUK. There will be a contract between Debt Management Office, represented by SPV, and the Federal Ministry of Housing. There will be another contract between the trustees of SUKUK holders, between it and DMO, Debt Management Office, another between SUKUK holders and Federal Ministry of Housing. For example, if it comes to the construction agreement for those roads, agency, maintenance of those roads as an agent on behalf of the SUKUK holders. So these are different personalities that are not the same. This is the point I was trying to make. And I've told you clearly, Sharia has no objection in allowing even non-human beings to stand as persons that will be responsible. Please note this. All what we need is, can we assign duties? Can we assign rights to so? Then it's a person under the law. And a good example is the Waqfu under Sharia that I've given you. So there's no problem here, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, no problem whatsoever. SPV stands alone. Federal government of Nigeria in some of the contract is represented by DMO, Debt Management Office. In some contract is represented by Federal Ministry of Housing. In fact, in some of those contracts, there are contracts that must be signed personally by the Minister of Works and Housing to show the seriousness attached to the matter. So that is it.
Nam, jazakumullah. Nam, another question. It says, how will the percentage of profit through rental payment be determined in the case of SUKUK?
Of our time, alhamdulillah. How is the percentage?
Of
What's
profit,
the question?
Of profit stroke rental payment be determined in the case of SUKUK?
On the structure of SUKUK. You know, I mentioned to you last week, different forms or different structures of SUKUK. One of those structures is Ijara SUKUK that is being used in Nigeria. We have another one that will be like partnership-based SUKUK, equity-based, like Mudoraba, like Musharaka. So in summary, if it is a structure that is based on partnership, on equity, then the percentage of profit or dividend coming to SUKUK holders shall be determined based on the generated profit from the business, from the transaction. If it is road, they have to wait until those roads will generate money. Then they must have agreed on the ratio, on the formula of distribution. As a Mudorib, as the entrepreneur, I'm taking 50%. You as the capital provider, you take 50%. Good. Even if they say it is 90-10, Sharia has no issue in that. All what concerns Sharia is your consent and your agreement. If it is 90-10, one takes 90%, the other takes 10. One takes 50, the other takes 50. If it is 60-40, 30-70, no problem. So that is if a SUKUK is based on a Mudaraba or Musharaka or any form of partnership contract under Islamic law. But if it is a structure that is based on Ijara, that is lease, pure lease. If it is a structure that is based on sale, that is Bayu, then we have to note that in Bayu and sale, I as a buyer, I as a lessor, I as a seller, I have every right to say, this is what you are going to pay me every month. In lease, I can say, this is what you are going to pay me as rent. So I can fix my rental. That is the meaning. So in the context of the FGN Sukuk, it is based on ijara, lease. So it is allowed for Sukuk holders and for the FGN to come into agreement to say, okay, if I should take the lease of those roads from you, I will pay you so. Then they can express that, just mere expression. Express that in percentage, because this is confusing to some people too. When they say we'll pay you 11 point something percent, something 16%, 15%. It's just by way of expression to people in the language that they understand most. Otherwise, what they are being said is that calculate 11% of whatever you have paid. This is the renter that I'm going to pay. It's allowed. It's as if I'm giving you a shop for rent, and I know I've spent 2 million in constructing the shop. And I said, okay, whoever is going to take the lease of this shop will pay me 10% of what I've used to buy it or to build it. It's okay. So it's a mere expression in a way that is best understandable to people. But summarily, it varies depending on the structure of the sukuk, whether it is equity-based, or whether it is sale-based, or whether it is lease-based, and the rest of them. Let me quickly chip in something here that I've just remembered. When I was answering the question of binding promise, because we want to clear every misunderstanding surrounding this matter. Even what we have used in Nigeria, in other climes, they are using another thing. If we use it here in Nigeria too, it's equally acceptable. You know, I told you a binding promise may be unilateral, binding just one party. If it becomes bilateral, binding the two of them together at the same time, that is haram. There is an in-between that has been developed now, because people are thinking of innovations in this practice, in this exercise. They have come up with a concept that is acceptable to most scholars in the world today. They call it two independent unilateral promises. Mark you, we have a unilateral promise. We have settled that one. It's acceptable. Bilateral promise is not acceptable. They said, okay, in some instances, we can have two independent unilateral promises. How does that work? That is, there will be a binding promise on the seller. There will be another binding promise on the buyer, but with two different triggers and two different consequences. That is, what will trigger the exercise of the purchase agreement must be different from what will trigger the exercise of the, what do you call it? Sale undertaking. The trigger of the sale undertaking will be different from the trigger of the purchase undertaking. The consequence of sale undertaking will be different, and so on and so forth. So if you have, particularly if you have different triggers that trigger them, it's being used in sukuk structures, in sukuk issuances all over the world today. What they call, is a new concept anyway, but you see, what we should appreciate, and we should be fair to Sharia scholars, I must say this. Some people believe that it is okay to pronounce what is halal as haram, whereas they are of the same level of sin. If you pronounce what Allah has made haram to be halal, we all know that. We will say, oh, this is an aberration. Anybody that pronounces a haram to be what? To be halal, we will agree that he is wrong. But some people do not realize that the same way, the same level of sins, if Allah has made something halal, for you as a scholar to say it is haram, it is equally sinful. It's equally sinful. So when people have come up with ideas, with innovations, they will table them before the Sharia scholars. Who are the Sharia scholars to declare what Allah has made halal as haram? Who are they? They can't do that. So we have to understand this and appreciate what they are doing. What is tabled before them, they will study it. If they see nothing contravening any Sharia rule, any Sharia authority, they must declare it as being halal. It's not a matter of emotion. It's not a matter of what I want. We should appreciate that one. If an idea comes up, the Sharia scholar has no reason to declare it as haram if he doesn't find anything making it haram in Sharia. So that is it.
Another question. In Nigeria, the National Pension Commission is investing our contributive pension in shares which is haram. What efforts are being made to evolve Islamic investment instruments like SUKUK for those of us who are Muslims and are in government employment?
No?
Yeah. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yes.
I should go over the question again.
No. I've had the question.
Okay.
As I was saying, this question has two legs. I will answer the first leg, and I would like to throw the challenge of answering the second leg to the totality of my audience this morning. The Sharia issue here is that what is the role that is being played by Sharia scholars to make sure that we have instruments, Sharia compliant business enterprises, Sharia compliant business opportunities in which PENCOM or any other pension administrator can come to invest in. That is the duty of Sharia scholars. And I can assure you that they have been doing this here locally in Nigeria and in other climes. Yes, I participated in a conference last year, maybe around November 2009. Yes, precisely in November, the fourth International Conference on Islamic Finance in Africa, hosted in, I think at a hotel. Yes. I personally participated in the session that was meant to discuss this matter. How can PENCOM find Sharia compliant business opportunities to come and invest in? So people are working already. This is the point I'm trying to make. And PENCOM has shown interest in investing, and they have what backs them, what allows them to do that under the law establishing PENCOM, because PENCOM law allows investment of the fund in ethical businesses, and this will accommodate Sharia or non-interest based businesses. So that is the first leg that I said I will address. The second leg is that this question is very, very important, but it shouldn't be directed to Sharia scholars alone. You all have a way of talking to the power, of talking to those who are the helms of affairs in PENCOM, in other places. They need to see that you are clamoring for something to exist. Otherwise, it will be like nobody will key into it. Nobody will show interest. I think this is a point that I said I would throw it as a challenge to whoever is listening to me. And in fairness to government of Nigeria, I'm saying this because this is Hamana. I've not seen anything that we ask for in this sphere, in this Islamic financial sector, that they have said no. We said we wanted our banking, they are licensing banking now, more than one bank. We said we want Islamic insurance, we have up to 6 or so Islamic insurance companies now. We said we wanted capital market instrument in SUKUK, they have given us SUKUK. So I think it is on us to request, and I very much believe that all of you listening to me will have your different ways of talking to those in power, and I can assure you, based on the precedent, they are always listening. So that is what I would like to say on this issue. The first leg, the duty of Sharia scholars. The second leg, the duty of all of you. One of the areas that Sharia scholars are already working on, I must tell you, is what we call Sharia screening exercise. You see, PENCOM or pension management generally all over the world is not to be invested in every business. They select businesses for them because of the nature of the fund belonging to millions of people who have already served and who are no more working. So you cannot take reckless decisions regarding their money. So they restrict them. For example, in most cases, they would like to go to capital market, stock exchange, to buy and sell shares because they feel the risk there is not as the risk in trading in commodities, for example. Now, the challenge that they are faced with is the fact that how are we sure that all the stocks or majority or minority of stocks that are being offered on our stock exchange are Sharia compliant. This is what Sharia scholars must come to, and they have already been doing that in the sense that we have what we call the procedure for screening stocks in every country, even in the West. You will hear of Dow Jones Islamic Index. This is what they are doing. Whoever is interested in investing in Sharia compliant stocks in the US, in the UK, in other parts of the world, there are indices like Financial Times Index, Dow Jones Islamic Index, that will tell them company A, its stock is halal. Company B, its stock is haram. Some people may think it is simple. It is not simple. You know, there are straightforward haram activities like gambling, like brewery, and the rest of them. So there's no issue in this one. It's very easy. Even non-Sharia scholar can say these are haram. But there are what we call mixed activities of a supposedly halal company, a company that is producing what is halal, for example, let me give you an instance. A hotel, for example, somebody that is in the business of hotel, you cannot say hotel generally is haram. It's not like brewery, it's not like gambling, but you have to come minutely, closely to monitor what is being done in every hotel to see that, okay, what they are doing as haram, is it at a tolerable limit or it is more than what Sharia can tolerate? So these are some of the issues that usually come up when Sharia scholars are faced with issues. So, hello?
Hello, Sama. Yes, we can hear you, sir.
People are still talking. Okay. So I think on this one, let's leave that one for another day. It's a very large area too, but it's part of what is being done to make sure that PENCOM can key into this halal investment. They have to be sure when they tell people we are investing your money in halal business, it must be really halal.
No. Yes, I would like to combine this question. Yeah, one is very common among our questioners. That is SUKUK zakatable. That is one. Then secondly, changing government, does it affect SUKUK?
Have to move very, very quickly now. We have just 10 more minutes. Yeah. The first one is SUKUK investment, is it zakatable? Yes and no. But since most of you are interested in knowing your investment in FG and SUKUK, I would say your investment in FG and SUKUK, your investment itself is not zakatable. It's not zakatable. The reason being that when you paid your amount of money, this is what happens. They have converted your money into asset. What you own now is not money, it's asset, roads. And the rule in Sharia is that when you have converted your cash into asset, as far as Zakah law is concerned, Zakah is only on the income generated from that asset and not from the value of that asset itself. So this is based on authentic hadith of the Prophet who said, ليس على العبد في فرسه أو ليس على الرجل في فرسه ولا في عبده صدقة. A person shall not pay zakah for his slave that is a slave. You know, in those days, slaves are in the position of industries, what they use to generate income. Wala fi farasi, or in his or her, you can take that one to be in place of vehicles of different models today. You don't need to value your vehicles. You don't need to value your houses, even if they are put on rent. If you are leasing them, all what you need to do is to know the income coming out of that, and those on the amount of income you have to pay zakat. So answering summarily, because zakat SUKUK in Nigeria is based on Ijara SUKUK. Your fund contributed has been converted to roads, which have become asset for lease. So now federal government is paying you renter. They are paying you renters every time, every 6 months, I think. So it is on those rents that you are collecting. You will add them up with your other resources, then you will pay zakat on them. Now, the second question is about, it's not even a Sharia issue. He's saying, does the change of government affect Sukuk? Is that, did I get it?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Well, everything is possible, not only in Nigeria, but at least what we can say is that from the precedent, from what is before us, federal government of Nigeria has never defaulted in any of its debt obligations. So that is very clear. And they have stated that clearly also in the prospectus of Sukuk, because it is dangerous for a nation to be known as a defaulter. It's not in the best interest of any country to be known as a nation that will default on its commitment or debt obligation. So we have not seen any example, and we hope not to see any. So with the change of government, since we have been as a nation, there has not been any instance of default, because it is very dangerous. Like I tell you, it will affect the country in so many ways, and no serious country will take such a risk.
No, Jazakumullah khair. Another question is saying, who are the trustees and how are they selected? By the buyer or the FG?
Who are the trustees? They are
Yes.
corporate bodies, not individuals. They are corporate, they are companies. Two of them, there's one called FBN Quest. If you look at the prospectus, I told you, SUKUK has a characteristic of being 100% transparent. There must be disclosure, full disclosure. They have listed everything in the prospectus. They must name their trustees. And that is what will take me to answering the second leg of that question. Who appointed them? It is the two parties. The SUKUK holders originally, they are now being represented by the SPV that has been created. You see, this is what I was saying when I told you about different personalities. You know, federal government of Nigeria created SPV, but it is now different from it. It has become a distinct personality. So it is the SPV through SUKUK holders through SPV. They will appoint the companies that they believe to have the capacity to handle this issue of trust. In Nigeria and other countries, there are companies that are registered solely to play the role of trustee. If anybody stands in need of trustee, you just approach such companies. They are all over the world. So we have them in Nigeria too. And federal government, together with SPV representing the SUKUK holders, they will look into the credentials of those companies and select. They've selected two of them. I think FBN Quest and STL, yes, STL trustees or something of that nature. So they are the trustees, the companies. And they have no role in structuring or in administering SUKUK. They have no role whatsoever. But some people may say, are they Sharia companies? No, they don't need to. They don't need to be. Their own role is to represent the interest. Instead of calling on all SUKUK holders, when you need to call them, when you need to sign an agreement, when they need to be satisfied that what they said the money will be used for are being used for. That is all they do. It's purely administrative. There's nothing concerning Sharia compliance in what they do. And if they attempt to do anything that is not Sharia compliant, this is what I told you. There is a body looking at the whole gamut of Sharia regulation of SUKUK, and that is the Financial Regulation Advisory Council of Experts of the Central Bank of Nigeria. So that is the that is just about the trust.
Maybe I will combine two questions again. Now, there's a platform called farm crowding where people invest in agricultural products and get fixed interest. We will appreciate if Prof can talk about legality of farm crowding.
I don't know much about this particular company, but interestingly, somebody sent a message to me. I think he said it's from UK, a Nigerian based in UK, some 2-3 days ago. It relates to this kind of business too, that people in diaspora are investing in some agricultural companies in Nigeria, farm or whatever. And he said a similar thing, that they pay them something that is fixed. But the first question that I even raised before coming to return is that I asked him, anytime there is a loss, they told you this is what you will get of the profit, if there is profit. In fact, even that one is, he said it's not fixed. They will tell you get 70% of what belongs to, of the profit. You get 30% of the profit. That is halal, if that is it. But if it is fixed, let us answer that one first. This questioner says they give them fixed interest or fixed profit. There's nothing known as fixed profit in Sharia. You can have fixed sale price. You can have fixed rental, but you cannot have fixed profit. No. A profit is what you work for. And when it comes, you now distribute it based on the pre-agreed ratio of distribution. But you cannot give a fixed profit. It's haram. The second one mentioned that by that brother that sent me that message. I asked him, when they tell you, and this will answer this question as well for anybody who is investing in them, if you want what is Sharia compliant, you cannot talk of profit and be silent on loss. It's not Sharia compliant. Yes. The golden principle of business in Islam is al-gunmu bil-gurmi wal-kharaju bil-daman. Benefit goes with damage and revenue follows liability. So they go hand in hand. A business proposal that tells you this is what will come to you as profit must equally tell you, if we suffer loss, this is how we are going to distribute it. This is your own share of the loss. If they fall short of doing that, then that alone is sufficient to declare such a transaction as being haram, as being non-Sharia compliant.
Now we are already. Can we continue, sir?
How many questions do you have left?
Oh, we have many of them, like 10.
Maybe we should add
Name, sir?
Okay, let's add some 15 minutes and see how far we can go. We cannot answer all your questions.
Okay, sir. Yeah. There's another question here. It would be great if Prof could comment on the release of non-interest loan planned by CBN.
So he wants me to comment on that?
Yeah, yeah. What is the status?
Well, I am not a staff member of CBN, so it is the CBN that can tell you what is the status. But because I'm an advisor to CBN, so let me tell you what is within my own limit to say, is that the CBN has asked us to develop Sharia-compliant non-interest versions of these interventions, various interventions of the federal government, including the most recent one in the health sector and for households and the rest of them. So, and we have completed working on that. So, but what, when are they going to be released? What is the status? The question should be directed to the management of CBN.
No. Yeah, another question. What if the government are not in good financial stand to repay after maturity? How can I get back my capital?
You see, everything under the sun has been treated relating to SUKUK. This is a very large area of our practice as Islamic financial practitioners. We call it SUKUK default. SUKUK default. It's known all over the world. Alhamdulillah, we've not had any case of default in Nigeria, and we hope we won't have. But it is not something that is totally strange. You hear of them here and there. It's just like any business, just like any party to a contract can default, can fail from performing its duty. It's possible. That is the summary. It's possible. We don't pray for that, but it's possible. So, and usually in the prospectus, they must have explained to you what will happen. Part of what can happen is for you to take over the asset, and you have every right under the law to take over the asset. Yes, I told you last week that FDN Sukuk is based on asset backed, which is 100% Sharia compliant according to the totality of Muslim jurists and scholars all over the world. It's not based on Sharia or on asset based or asset covered. The structure being used for FDN is asset backed, which gives the Sukuk holders, in the case of default, every right to take over the asset. So that is part of what they can do. Taking over the asset will mean they will now see how the asset can generate money for them. Well, we don't expect it to come, but what if it happens? There are ways of dealing with them, both in Sharia and even in law. So it's not a totally strange phenomenon.
No. Another question is, what is the Islamic ruling on trading in cryptocurrency, Bitcoin in particular?
Now, are not you can arrange any other online.
Can I hear you, sir?
Hello? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
No, I was suggesting to you that cryptocurrency is as wide as Sukuk itself. So it's better you plan for that in future and perhaps arrange with some of my colleagues, any other scholar, to come and take you through all the intricacies around cryptocurrency. Because if I should answer you in summary now, it will generate more questions than answer. And I don't like to be misquoted or misinterpreted. So it's better not to delve into cryptocurrency in 1 or 5 minutes.
Okay, sir. Yeah, another question, sir. Can Sukuk be raised in foreign currency, that is US dollar, just like in Eurobond?
Yes, yes. The answer to that is yes. There's nothing stopping federal government of Nigeria or any other country for that matter in raising a dollar domiciled or pound sterling domiciled or real domiciled Sukuk. But what is happening presently in Nigeria, you know, we are a new entrant into the Sukuk market, and I agree perfectly with the federal government of Nigeria, the wisdom that they have adopted in starting gradually. They've started now with Naira domiciled Sukuk, and they have seen the successes. Maybe it may be in their plan that the subsequent issuances in the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, when they are ready for that, they may now go international. There are a lot of benefits associated with that one. It will allow for more investors, foreign investors, to come in. And we are always clamoring for having foreign direct investment into our economy. Sukuk can actually play a very significant sterling or any other international currency domiciled Sukuk. It has its own advantages, but we have to be moving little by little. We don't rush. I agree with them by starting with Naira domicile when we are comfortable with the level as we find ourselves. We are very comfortable now. It's very promising. It's very successful. So they may look into that, but from Sharia perspective, there's nothing stopping them from doing.
Another question here is the Sukuk certificate and trading on stock exchange is yet to be popular. What's your milestone with stock exchange market?
Whoever is raising this question means by not popular. I know that, let me tell you, for example, some people have been asking that a Sukuk that was oversubscribed, you wanted to, the federal government wanted 150, subscription went to the high level of about 600 or more than 600 billion. we said the rest of the money will have to be returned to the investors who are not successful. What will happen is that those investors that are successful, they may decide to sell their certificate, their interest in SUKUK. And that is what brings about the issue of trading SUKUK certificate, which is allowed if they follow the rules. So by saying it is not popular, I don't know what is. I know a lot of financial institutions are already doing that. Even from the first issuance, they're already trading in SUKUK. People who bought can sell. And those who are not successful in buying directly from federal government can show interest in buying. This is what we call secondary market of SUKUK. So I think it is being done. Maybe it has not been on a very wide margin. I don't know, but I think gradually we'll get there. We'll get there, inshallah ta'ala. But Sharia-wise, if you look at the prospectus, it has been stated clearly what are the rules guiding trading of SUKUK, either on the organized market, which you call stock exchange, or even if you have what they call OTC, over the counter. There's no problem in Sharia. You can trade SUKUK over the counter or in the organized market or stock exchange. But in any way, when you are trading SUKUK, you must make sure, and that is very clear in the fatwa, in the Sharia compliant fatwa that was given to FGN SUKUK, that they cannot start trading while the money contributed remain in cash, 100%. A significant amount of it must have been converted into asset. It may not be roads that are ready for use, but materials, raw materials, equipment. So they have changed nature. And once you have cash being converted to asset, yes, it now becomes acceptable to go to a secondary market and trade, because now you are doing what? You are trading money with asset, not money with money. So this is what is to be looked into. For those who are the stock exchange, the Security and Exchange Commission as the regulator must also pay attention to that one. Nobody comes to trade SUKUK while it is not ripe enough for such a trading to take place.
There's another question here, that the SUKUK is enjoying patronage, both from the Muslims and non-Muslims. And we do know that non-Muslims have other several options, which Muslims do not enjoy. So how do we do it to protect the interests of the Muslims in the SUKUK so that they can have high advantage?
Federal government cannot do something that will showcase it as somebody favoring followers of a particular religion. We all know this. But what we can do to safeguard our interests as Muslims is to be the first one to show interest. You know, the issue of SUKUK is first come, first served. They don't ask of your religion when you come to buy. The problem with some of our people is that they wait until the last day or a day before it ends and start struggling to buy, while others have been waiting for months, getting information, and already they have money reserved for SUKUK. So, and generally speaking, Islamic finance is one of the ways of showcasing the beauty of our religion, Islam. Islam is sent as a mercy to the whole mankind. We have to bear that in mind. So it is even good for us that non-Muslims, yes, I agree with you, a lot of non-Muslims are buying SUKUK. Even when Muslims were hesitating, were still doubting, were still having shubuhat, a lot of non-Muslims have keyed into SUKUK. So it's part of what you should be happy with, that they are saying something that is very beautiful in our religion. So it's very, very encouraging. But to say that we have to say so percentage of SUKUK should be for Muslims, no government will do that, and we will never encourage them to do, because Islam is a mercy to the whole mankind.
Yes, Jazakumullah khairan. This may likely mark the last question. And before then, inshallah, we'll have a poll, and we encourage everybody to participate in the poll. Yeah. does the hadith do not trade with what you have not possessed or owned, not applicable to ijara, because it is noticeable from the model of FGN SUKUK that the roads are leased before they are even constructed.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, and that is what we say. I said it last week. There is a species of ijara, which is called ijara to mawsufin fi dhimmatin. It's in Sharia literature. Ijara to mawsufin fi dhimma. Literally translated as being forward ijara. Yes, in forward ijara, you can pay even before you can enter to a contract. You must even enter into contract of ijara before actually the project or the assets to be leased becomes available. So it is allowed, in summary, under this particular species of ijara known as ijara to mawsufin fi dhimma.
Okay. Jazakumullah khairan jaza. We appreciate the Prof for his time and for allowing us to benefit from his knowledge. So maybe if Prof has anything to advise us, we will leave the floor open to himself.
Mr. Moderator, if I have anything left to say, is just to encourage you by moving forward in this path. You have done well with the kind of responses that you have had all over the world. It means people are looking forward to your generation of trying to put in place things that will bring closer to people understanding of their religion. Not only in this area of Islamic finance, but try to do it in other areas too. You will earn a lot of reward from Almighty Allah. So, and whoever has one way or the other of supporting you, I know some of you are still students, and some of you are workers, but at the same time, we are all partners in the path to paradise. So if anybody has anything to assist you with, I will also encourage those who are enjoying these services to come to your aid, and that will be fantastic. It will bring the understanding of the deen, of the religion, closer and closer to people all over the world. And whoever contributes to that one has a lot to gain in the sight of Almighty Allah. And finally, we thank Almighty Allah for giving us the opportunity last week and this week. We thank him for his blessings on us, and we at the end of it all, we have only exhibited the very little amount of knowledge that I have. I have to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive me if anything is wrong in whatever I've said. That has been from shaitan, not from Allah, Almighty Allah. And whatever is right of all that I've said is actually from him and through his blessing. هذا والله أعلم وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.
I would like to invite Dr. Adam to kindly come on board and appreciate the Prof and for closing remarks. Dr. Adam on the platform.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله ثم الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. We give thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has made it possible for us to think about this program, and he also in his infinite mercy made it a reality for last week and also for the concluding part this week. So we say Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. After this, we also thank our professor. So he sacrificed a lot of his time preparing for the lecture and also for answering our call. after the last week's session that was so highly attended by a lot of our brothers from all over the world. Then we requested for another impromptu one for today, and he considered it. We so much appreciate your sacrifice and your consideration. We can only say that Jazakallahu khairan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you abundantly for the sacrifice and for the knowledge that you have benefited us a lot with. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put barakah also in your knowledge and reward you and your family abundantly. Then also we appreciate the effort of the organizers, that is especially our special topics groups under the Nigeria community in KFUPM and its environs. So under the leadership of Brother Blakim, Abu Aisha, and all his team members, we say Jazakumullah khairan to all of you also for planning the program successfully. And also we thank the Shura Council of the community also for taking it upon you to consider this kind of program worthwhile. And to the entire member and to all our brothers and sisters all over the world that have taken their time to attend the program. So we only pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept the time as ibadah from each and every one of us and also make us benefit immensely from what has been presented. So once again, so we say Jazakallah khairan to our professor. So our greetings to the family. So and on behalf of the community, myself and all our members, we say Jazakumullah khairan to everybody. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.
I think I can take my leave now. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum.
We need your email address and contact, please. We need your email address, please.
Your email address and contact, please. Your email address.
Your number, please. For personal questions.
You can ask the organizers. The organizers will give you all that. They have it with them.
Okay. Okay.
Organizer, how can we contact you, please? The organizer, how can we contact you, please? Assalamu alaikum, organizer. How can we contact you, please?
How can I contact you, please?
We'll send to your email, inshallah.
Jazakallah khairan.
Jazakallah khairan. Amin, amin.
Amin, amin.
Organizer, please, whenever you have another program, let us know.
Inshallah, inshallah. We'll keep you updated, inshallah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Jazakumullah khairan.
We really appreciate it and we learn a lot on it.
We appreciate your presence as well.
Jazakumullah khairan.
Good.